How you doing, everybody? It's Tuesday, it's 26th of June 2012, and it's around midday. I want to have a chat with you about the extension of that previous video that I did on food as a weapon. If you can imagine, probably a lot of you weren't born. I was 25 at the time, and I had a major altercation with the British state. I was living in Belfast, and as a result of this altercation, which was a political altercation, it wasn't a physical altercation, they decided that I was a danger to society and they wanted to lock me up. And they stuck me in one of Her Majesty's hotels up on the Crumlin Road with, I was one of about 800 other men that were in it at the time. There was about 400 or 500 Republican prisoners, and there was about a couple of hundred loyalist prisoners, and the rest were ordinary criminals, small number of criminals there. And what happened was, I think it was the first or second day that I was there, I met one of the criminals, and I knew him. He's a petty criminal. He used to fake up checks and do all this stupid thing, credit cards and all the pathetic stuff to get 50. I think he had a drug problem. But anyway, it doesn't matter. I used to see him around. I used to sell papers, you see it. And I'd be out selling papers and I'd see all these people around the city centre of Belfast. Anyway, what happened was, he marked my cards about the prison, the Pokey Joe. He told me that he was a cook. He said, look, I work down in the kitchens here. He said, I'm a cook here. And he said, because that's what he did really in the outside world when he wasn't involved in criminality. And he said to me, I'll mark your cards, he said, because they put, he said it was poison. The innocence of the guy, you know. He said, they put stuff in the food here and in the water and in the tea. And he said, it makes some of the guys inside sick, makes some of the prisoners sick. She said, I'll mark your cards. He says, up to you if you want to take it. He said, but it's like poison. And he didn't know the name of it, but anyway, it was potassium bromide. But what happened was, sure enough, about 3 or 4 days later, there was a big altercation. Now, I was locked up most of the time because I was a remand prisoner. I only got out for meals and an hour for an exercise every day to walk around the exercise yard. But most of the rest of the time I was locked up. So you're pretty boring existence. Anyway, what happened was about maybe a week later, 4 or 5 days later, there was a big altercation inside the prison. And what had happened was, 1 or 2 Republicans had attacked 1 or 2 loyalists, or maybe it was the other way about. I don't know, but there was a lot of shouting and roaring, and the whole internal temperature of the prison, the friction inside the prison, the human friction between all the inmates went up through the roof. And I went down that night to get my dinner, to get my tea. And what happened was, your man marked my card. He just did over to me, the cook fella, and he said, and that was all. So he was telling me, like, you know, the stuff's going to be put into the tea and into the water. So I never took any of it. I mean, I poured the stuff out because I didn't want to draw attention to myself, but I never drank any of it. I had a small amount of food, and I went back up, put back into my cell with 2 other. I shared it with 2 other fellas. There was 3 of us in a cell. And anyway, cut a long story short, which was fascinating, and about 3 hours later, the whole noise level, up until that happened, up until, like, you know, that they all ingested the tea with the potassium bromide in it, the noise level was like the room next door to hell. That's what it was like. It was like you'd walked into a room, hell was here, and you just walked into this room, and you could hear all of all of a sudden, when I say all of a sudden, over a period of about 2 hours, it just went all, nothing. Literally nothing. There was a couple of little minor blips on the thing, but nothing. Absolutely nothing. So that was not lost to me. I never got it. And when I got out of the prison, eventually I ended up in America. I said, I'm going to find out about this. And I got introduced at one stage after I'd arrived in America. It was New York. I think it was in Queens in New York. I got introduced to a biochemist. And thought I'd raise this with him, and I raised it with him. And he was older than me, and he spent a bit of time, and he explained to me the whole thing. And he said to me, it was developed in the 19th century, and it's one of the oldest tricks in the book, and it has, on the brain, it has a huge impact, bromide, on the brain, and it shuts down a whole lot of sections of the brain, the electrical impulses that are generated inside certain areas of the brain are just shut off. But he said to me there was another thing. There was another another chemical just as vicious, which was ongoing, and it was used in America. And he didn't know anything about Ireland because he was an American citizen, this fella. But he said they use fluoride in exactly the same way in the water supply. And he said its toxicity over a prolonged period is just as much as potassium bromide. He said, in fact, some of the studies suggest it's even more toxic because it gets into your bones and does all sorts of damage. Okay? So I never forgot that. That was two parts of it then. That was, first one was in the prison, and the second part was in America. And about 5 years ago, it kind of goes out of your mind, you know, but I knew never to drink the water. I knew never to drink the water in any amount in Ireland. I always tried to drink bottled water and fresh spring water if I could, right? About 5 years ago, I was talking to a friend of mine here who's involved in the entertainment business, and his buddy was dying. He had a lymphatic cancer, a Hodgkin's lymphoma or something, I can't remember what it was, one of these weird lymphatic cancers, and he was dying from it. And he took himself off. He's quite wealthy, and he was a manager in the entertainment business, this boy, and I think he was in his early 60s. Took himself off to America, to Johns Hopkins University Hospital there, and he spent a week or 10 days there, and they did everything. Looked at him upside down, you name it, they did all the things from a Western approach, and they did all these scans and did all sorts. Eventually they told him, you have 3 months to live, we can't do nothing about it. This thing is way advanced, and good luck, go home and wish your family well and all that, right? By the way, before you go, you owe us $43,000. So he had to cough up the money, and he left and came home to Ireland. When he was in Ireland, somebody said to him, you should go and see this fella. He's in China, and he's a professor of holistic medicine. And he does all this weird stuff. And sure, you've tried all the Western stuff, not working. What can you lose? So just take yourself over to China and go and see this fella. He has a clinic. It's in Shanghai, out on the outskirts of Shanghai. So he went over to see this merchant, and this bloke, I don't know the name of the bloke at all, but the moment he met the bloke said to him, where are you from? He spent 2 days with this guy, by the way. This guy did all these various tests on him. But the guy wanted to know, that was the first thing he said, where are you from? And he said to him, I'm from Ireland. And he had a big map of the world. And he said, is it the north of Ireland or the south of Ireland? Because very important, he said. And the man said, it's the Republic of Ireland. Oh, he said, yes. He said, well, and he wrote the thing down, right? Anyway, what he did was he tested the guy's internal electrical energy. He did all sorts of things for brain patterns. He photographed his aura. He did all sorts of things. He looked at the irises, his eye, the iris of his eye. Did all sorts of things. Did little diagrams of it and all. He said, look, after 2 days, he said, this thing is very, very advanced. And he said, if you don't do anything, if you continue doing what you're doing now, up until now, you'll be dead in 3 months, 2 or 3 months, you'll be dead. There's what you have to do. You give him a sheet of paper. And the very first thing on the sheet of paper, like there was all sorts of things on the sheet of paper. He wasn't allowed to eat red meat, he'd eat fresh fruits, he'd drink water all the time, ingest vegetables, he'd minimise the amount of carbohydrates that he was eating and all the rest of it, okay? All that sort of stuff, okay? Because he was a bit overweight. Anyway, on the top of the sheet of paper in red, in big red letters, is you must not drink any more Irish tap water. Why? Because it contains fluoride. And the fluoride, your body views it as a highly contaminant toxin, and it'll accelerate your death. So that was 5 years ago, and he did exactly what was on. He did exactly what it said on the tin. He did exactly what he. Oh, by the way, it cost him $480 to see this guy. Not $43,000, $480 it cost him to see this bloke. And he changed his lifestyle. He did exactly all of. There was about 9 or 10 things written out. But the main thing was he could not drink any more tap water, or he could not cook any of the food using tap water. That was the other thing. And imagine your mum was able to tell him immediately, oh, that's a Republic of Ireland, you cannot drink their water. Imagine. Same with the United States. There's several countries, you can look it up on the internet. I think the Basque region is one of the other ones. There's about, I think 9 of them, 8 or 9 of them throughout the world, but he had them marked out on the map, the big world map that he had in his study, where he interviewed this fella. So that's the situation. It's used as a weapon. Food is weaponized now, like everything. You're battered from the moment that you're born. The state is battering you. It's battering you from a class warfare point of view. It's battering you from a propaganda point of view, and it's battering you from the food point of view. You don't stand a chance, and you're never told that. You're never ever told that the food you eat essentially has been weaponized for their advantage. And that's why in certain countries of the world, the men are not real men anymore. They've been effectively castrated, effectively been dehumanized in that sense. Their male integrity has been removed, and you've got women who the opposite has occurred to. They've become less feminine and more male oriented, and the whole thing is bizarre. It's up the left. We see it. We just see it everywhere. We just see it everywhere. And where it's all going to go, we don't know. But at least if you're aware of it, you can make an informed decision. If you're not aware of it, you can't do nothing. And unfortunately, for the vast majority of the people who are asleep, that's the case. Anyway, listen, we're going to talk more, okay? Bye.